Hey, sugar. Come on in. It's pretty sweet in here.
There's gonna be a few puns in this thing, so let's check it out. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Seaside Nomad. I'm out here with Jeff. Jeff's my buddy, and he has some pretty cool maple trees, and he boils maple syrup. So I'm gonna ask him some questions today. I think what a lot of people want to know is kind of just generally which trees you can actually tap, what type of maples, and like what do you have for trees on your property?
So most of the trees I have are red maples, but normally you would tap sugar maples since they have the highest concentration of sugar in them. So the only issue or downfall to tapping red maples or getting maple water from red maples is it takes more water to get the same amount of maple syrup. So if you're getting sugar water from like a sugar maple, you wouldn't have to boil as much water to get the same amount of maple syrup, finished product. But this is what I've got. I've got a bunch of red maples on my land, and so I use what I got and let's do it for fun.
Hello, ladies. How many trees do you have on your property that are tapped?
Oh, that's a tough question.
It's ballpark.
I think I tapped 17 this year on my land, and so they're all of varying sizes. So this tree is a pretty good sized one, so I have 3 taps in it. Some of the smaller ones I only have 1 tap, and depending on the diameter of the tree, you can usually put more taps in a larger diameter tree.
See that tree over there?
What, that one right there?
Would you tap it?
Already did 3 times.
How do you figure out which one is a maple? Like this is obviously the season where there's no leaves. Could you tell without the leaves if these are, or do you like kind of like wrap them in the summer so you know what they are? Or?
Yeah, so I'm not that good at identifying trees, so I'm sure someone who's really good at identifying trees.
An arborist.
An arborist. A tree person.
A tree person.
Would be able to identify by just the bark. But what I did was during the summer, or whenever there's leaves on the trees, I go out and take a look at the leaves, and that's an easy way to identify which trees are maples.
Is that a?
That's that's a maple.
Got ourselves a maple leaf.
I think that's a red maple leaf.
Nice.
Ellie Belly, who's your good girl? Who's your good girl? Good girl. Good girl.
What is the season, at least here in Maine, typically for tapping trees?
So normally I tap in February, early February. It depends year to year. Some people, like, it was a pretty warm winter, so some people ended up tapping pretty early. But then it got really cold again, and then the maple wasn't running for a little while. But in general, I think people normally tap in February time frame.
February.
Yeah,
April.
I mean, also depending, like, where we are in the state.
Oh, that's true.
Like northern Maine, they're gonna tap a little bit later just because they have it's a little bit colder up there. But around here, February seems to be the time to tap. Usually I stop tapping in April, so a good indicator of when to stop collecting maple syrup or the maple water is when the trees start budding.
That's a good tip.
So the maple water becomes a little bit more bitter the later on in the season you go.
That's cool. I didn't know that. Yeah, so once you kind of start seeing the buds, that's when you should probably realize
indicating the end is near.
And then math-wise, like, what is the ratio of maple water to, 1 gallon of maple syrup, or what do you use as kind of an indicator?
So it depends on the type of maple tree. So for a red maple, you may have to correct me on my numbers, but I'm pretty sure it's around 50 or 60 gallons to 1 gallon of syrup.
Okay.
And then on a sugar maple, I believe 30 or 40 gallons
of
raw sap.
I'm not going to be holding your hands to the flame on this,
Yeah,
so you don't
yeah.
have to worry about that.
Yeah, I read it somewhere at some time, and
The internet at some point probably
I got a
told
lot
us.
of stuff in my head. I don't know. I may not remember that.
I'm awful with numbers, so like that's why I asked him and I put it on him.
Yeah, it's all for fun. I mean,
It's basically, and at the end of the day, it's a lot of maple water for a small amount of maple syrup, which kind of makes you realize that's kind of why maple syrup is probably as expensive as it is, because it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of fuel, and it's a short window for people to get, you know, the syrup.
it's a lot of work for, you know, a little bit of product, but it's, I don't know. I mean, I originally did it to kind of start like a tradition for the kids. It was a good reason to get the kids outside during the colder months.
Yep.
And they like sugar, so
Yeah.
that's a big
I've noticed that, yeah.
benefit to it. So they're my taste testers, so they're always constantly asking, you know, can I get another taste test of the maple syrup? So they look forward to it. You know, not as much the you know, getting up early and starting the boil and collecting the wood and all the stuff that surrounds it. They're in it for the good part, the sugar.
So my question for Jeff is, how do we go about tapping the trees? You know, you picked out your tree, you know which one you want to use. How do you go about tapping it?
So it's some basic tools. So normally I just use an electric drill, drill into the tree, and I bought these taps online somewhere, and just take them, you know, you drill the right size hole, take the tap, you hit it in there with a hammer, and then attach the tubing to it, and you go into, you know, put it into some buckets.
You let gravity do the rest, right?
Let gravity do the rest. Some people, you know, the traditional maple buckets you've seen are the metal ones hanging from the trees. I decided to go with the old plastic 5-gallon buckets, food safe buckets.
My last question while we're out by the trees is, what temperature is ideal to get that water flowing? Like what like at night, in the morning, what are you looking for temperatures, like, to make it so that it's going to flow and these barrels, these buckets fill up?
So I guess the idea behind it is that you want below freezing at night, just below freezing, and then during the day, you know, warm up above freezing. Anything above freezing, the warmer it is, the better, the more it's going to flow. And that's when it flows the best.
Beautiful.
So it's the trees know what to do. You're just let nature take its course.
Listen to the trees, man.
Yeah.
Listen to the trees. Might hug one later.
Yeah, you should. They make some pretty good stuff.
They're giving us some good sweet stuff. All right, speaking of sweet stuff, let's move into the Sugar Shack. So here is the Sugar Shack, this backyard Sugar Shack. And let's go see if Jeff will let us in.
Hey, Sugar, come on in. It's pretty sweet in here.
There's gonna be a few puns in this thing, so let's check it out.
Just a few.
So basically the operation here, we've already done the trees, and all that water was collected, put into this bucket. And Jeff, once you got it from that bucket, where did you put it?
Right from the bucket into the first stage. Just to heat the maple water up a little bit. Then it goes to the second stage.
Stage 2.
Stage 2, get it boiling. And then stage 3, the hard boil.
The hard boil, stage 3. You can see It actually kind of looks like maple syrup at this point. You can see the bubbles are kind of thicker, and you can just
viscous.
It's much more viscous. That's a scientific term. We're very scientific people here.
Totally.
Becomes more viscous, and we should do a taste test.
I think we should do that.
Let's do a taste
That's one of
test.
the benefits to having a maple shack. Again, thank you, Rachel, for letting us use the measuring cups.
Thanks, Rachel, for all of your
Contributions.
You are a sweetheart. Much love. So just give it a little dip. I don't burn myself.
It's hot, so.
It's very hot, so we'll wait and blow on it a little bit, and then we'll clink, and then we'll have a sip.
Ready?
All right, here we go.
It's probably good. Probably won't burn our mouths.
Probably fine, right?
Be fine. Oh yeah? It's getting there. It's getting there.
It tastes really good. It really does. It's like this tastes like proper maple syrup. I mean, it's how close is it right now, Jeff, to being the finished product?
Since we've been constantly putting more, less boiled water in, it still has probably about probably 3 or 4 hours left to boil on it. But it's getting up there. It's getting our signature taste, and it's pretty sweet.
That's good, man. That's good. How would you describe your signature taste? How would you describe your particular brand of maple syrup?
So since we're boiling down into these, we're condensing down into these 2 main boil pans, our maple sugar, our syrup has time to, the sugars caramelize a lot, so we get more of a, it's darker in color, and it's, I don't know, a more, what would you say, caramelized taste.
Yeah.
It has like that kind of like,
He's right.
the back taste. Like you meet up front, you get the sweetness,
Yeah.
the sugars, but then the on the back end it's kind of like caramelized, and it's.
He's a professional food reviewer when he's not hanging out with me in his backyard.
I'm making this up. Yeah.
We're making a lot of this up, so take it with a grain of salt.
All I know is it's delicious.
It is really delicious. I feel bad that you can't taste it, but it's good. This is where the action happens. This is where the magic happens. Fueled by wood. Gets really warm. It smells really good in here. It's humid because you've got all the evaporation. You've got wood to keep the thing going. You've got maple water to turn into maple syrup. And you just kind of hang out. What advice would you give to somebody who just wants to do some backyard mapling? They've got some maple trees in their yard and they want to tap them. Like what, like when you first started out versus now, like what have you learned that would help somebody in that situation?
I mean, I didn't realize how much like raw maple water from like directly from the tree that you need to get like a substantial amount of maple syrup. Like it takes a lot of raw water. I mean, you can go out and if you just want to, try it, collect some maple water from a tree and boil it on your stove at home. You're not gonna get, like you may only get like a tablespoon of maple syrup, but it's something you can try and do. It'd be kind of a fun activity to do with the kids. So you kind of have to, if you want a substantial amount, like a maple jug or something, mason jar or something, you kind of have to commit a little bit to, or have a way that you're gonna boil that much water. And a bunch of time to watch that water boil.
Yeah, that's where that comes in handy.
Yeah. So it's like some people will this is a turkey fryer burner, and that's a great way to you can boil a bunch of water. It's kind of expensive because you go through a bunch of propane.
Yeah, that's true. But like for a person starting out, maybe has a few trees, this kind of could be like your basic starter system. So this, you said earlier that this stuff is almost done, and you can tell by, how can you tell?
So if you have a calibrated eye, you can tell by the bubbles, the shape of the bubbles, and the amount of bubbles. But I usually go by temperature. So everyone knows water boils at 212. It's officially maple syrup when it boils at 219. So as the water evaporates, you see the water vapor coming off the pots. That's water leaving the pan. So as the water evaporates, you get higher sugar content, and then the ability for the maple water to boil at a higher temperature goes up. So water boils at 212, officially becomes maple syrup at 219.
219.
7 degrees above boiling temperature.
7 degrees above, right there. So you want to tell me, that was my question. I was going to ask you, 7 degrees above, that's what you're looking for, and that's what you guys decided to call your, I mean, I wouldn't call it a company, I guess. It'd be
Not
more
a company, but
organization.
It's organization, yeah.
Family fun thing.
Yeah. We just wanted to come up with a name, just kind of fun, so we could get some swag.
Yep.
And we kind of liked it because it's kind of a little sciencey. A lot of people, it makes people ask the question of.
I asked the question the first time. I was like, I don't know what 7 degrees above means.
Yeah.
But now I do.
And it's unique.
Yeah.
Which we have, kind of a unique setup. And
you're unique people.
We're unique people.
Yeah. They're very unique.
That's why we came up with it.
So we took it. We got the maple water, and then we store the maple water in something like this. That's all maple water down there. It's pretty dark. I'm not sure if you can see it, but
that's what we process through our reverse osmosis system.
We're gonna go next to the reverse osmosis system. I'm gonna show you that. That's kind of a unique thing. I don't think most people have reverse osmosis systems for their backyard kind of maplers.
Exactly.
They don't have your reverse osmosis.
It's kind of another unique thing, sciencey, that we added to our system, and it was probably the biggest improvement to our whole setup that we've done so far, because it literally cuts the time in half for us to boil. Get the same amount of maple syrup out of what we would have done before the RO system. Basically cuts the time in half. I think it's great. It was probably the best thing we did.
We're gonna cut away, and I'm gonna show you the reverse osmosis system. So here's Jeff's homemade reverse osmosis system. I'll let him explain it. If you want to check out, there's a link below to his YouTube channel where he has a video explaining his system, showing it as it runs. But just for your education here, I'll explain. It has a water filter, it has a pump, and it has 4 reverse osmosis filters. Basically what you're doing here is you're running the maple water through, and you're separating the water from the concentrate. The concentrate is the sugar and everything else, and the water is actually getting separated. Normally you'd keep that in a regular reverse osmosis system, but with this one, you just keep the concentrate so that you can boil it faster.
Breaking it free.
Separating the crystal layer.
Yeah.
Crust. Liquid magma. It is amazing how much it boils down. It's pretty wild. It's that sweet gold. Yeah, you definitely wouldn't want to drop that. Oh my gosh. So at this point, Jeff is taking the 2 pans of maple syrup, and he's going to pour them into a pot, and he's going to filter it with some cheesecloth. This cheesecloth is just basically a filter to stop the large debris from getting into the syrup. After this, he's going to do a final boil and then filter it 3 more times. Oh, smells so good.
I don't think there'd be that much boiling left on this. I think it's pretty close.
Yeah, it looks like maple syrup. This is the last boil, and basically we're just kind of waiting until it gets to 219. Once it's 7 degrees above boiling, it will be maple syrup. 219, that's the number we're looking for. Magic number. And the last step in this process is to pour the maple syrup through and filter it out 3 times. After that, we're going to go ahead and taste test it and then call it a day. So do you have like a saying for this?
Just say, may the power of the wood be inside you.
I think he's filming you.
May the power of the wood be inside you.
Oh, that's good.
That's really good. All right, guys, I want to keep this short and sweet. Like and subscribe if you haven't. Keep up on my adventures. I'm going to be doing a lot more stuff this summer. This is me, Dave. This is my buddy, Jeff. And when it all boils down to it, we got to go. Later.